This place is where it all began, on Shutter Island.
Quick PSA, spoilers for this film pretty much from the get-go, from second one. So this is a whole analysis of the movie. If you haven't seen Shutter Island, don't watch this. Go watch that. Come back, watch this.
My name is Edward Daniels.
I've been hearing this fantasy for 2 years now. I know every detail.
Alrighty, so let's talk Martin Scorsese's vastly underrated film, which I think is an excellent movie, Shutter Island from 2010. Not only are we going to dive deep into this movie, for the first time in like 2 years, I wrote notes galore. We're going to go through this whole film because it is so layered. There is so much stuff here to dissect and talk about. There are so many themes being explored. There's so much symbolism in this movie. And I feel like this was marketed terribly. And a lot of people do. It was marketed as a horror film, which it's not. This is a psychological thriller with some like pulp noir, crime detective aspects to it. There are some horrific things that happen in the movie, and a lot of the themes are scary as shit if you really put yourself in the character's shoes. But besides that, it's not a horror movie. But there are a lot of theories and interpretations for this movie. And you hear 3 of them all the time. 2 of them kind of branch off from the same theory, and then you have a completely different theory. That completely different theory is the one I'm going to try my hardest to totally debunk throughout this entire video.
Give it a try.
That's the spirit.
We have the 2 interpretations that branch off the theory that this all was a role play. Teddy Daniels actually is Andrew Laeddis.
You've been here for 2 years, a patient of this institution.
This was all orchestrated to try to bring him back to reality because he's very violent, he's trained, he served in World War II, and this is basically the last step to bringing him back before they have to lobotomize him. That's the last resort.
The warden and the board of overseers are determined something be done. It's been decided that unless we can bring you back to sanity now, right now, permanent measures will be taken to ensure you can't hurt anyone ever again. They'll lobotomize you, Andrew. Do you understand?
And you have the famous line at the end.
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?
It's not that ambiguous. He did not regress back into his delusional world of Teddy Daniels. He was still Andrew Laeddis. He was lucid after the breakthrough, and he willingly went to get lobotomized because he couldn't live with the guilt of killing his wife and the fact that he feels that he killed his children as well because he never paid attention to the signs of Dolores's mental illness.
Dolores was insane, manic depressive, suicidal. You drank, stayed away, ignored what everyone told you.
So that's the one I have always subscribed to. You also have the theory that he did regress back to Teddy Daniels and he, just went and got lobotomized because the treatment failed. I don't believe that at all, and we'll debunk that too throughout this. But then you have the interesting theory. The theory where he actually is Teddy Daniels.
I'm Teddy Daniels. I'm a cop.
You're the marshal.
He is there investigating a case.
So this female patient, Rachel Solando, escaped sometime in the last 24 hours.
She killed all 3 of her children. She drowned them in the lake behind her house.
And also trying to find Andrew Laeddis. And while he is there, they all basically gaslight the hell out of him and drug him through the cigarettes is a big theory.
You tell me at least that you've been smoking your own cigarettes.
Andrew, stop!
The aspirin.
You haven't taken any pills, have you? I mean, even aspirin.
The aspirin.
Jesus.
Thanks so much.
There's a lot of theories out there that they turned him crazy. And it's wrong. Sorry. Of course, the beauty of this movie is that it's written so well and it's executed so well that you can interpret it any way you want. There's a lot of theories trying to support that they were drugging him and they ended up really convincing him he was somebody else and that he was a patient there.
After everything I've seen here, Doctor, you really think you're gonna convince me I'm crazy, huh?
And then he willingly walked off to get lobotomized. And there's a few key points that I'm going to make throughout this that debunk that whole theory. And those ones I'm generous. I'll give you that shit right up front. So you're not just waiting for nothing and you don't know what's coming. We're going to talk about Rachel Solando, the real one, quote unquote, in the cave, and why she doesn't exist and she's not a real person. We're going to talk about George Noyce because there's a lot of discrepancies that have been around since this movie came out about the 67th patient thing.
I'll be with you in a
And
moment.
we spoke this morning about Rachel Solando's note.
Who is 67? Yes, I'm afraid I still don't. None of us do.
A total of what, 66 patients at this facility?
That is correct, yes.
And if Rachel Solando doesn't really exist, which we know, we see her as one of the nurses at the end of the film. That would imply that there are 66 patients at Ashecliffe, not 67, counting Laeddis. But I have an answer for that too. Also, all the cigarette stuff or the aspirin, any aspect of drugging him to drive him crazy, I'm going to debunk that too.
A new drug has just been approved called Thorazine, which relaxes psychotic patients. You could say tames them.
So let's jump into Shutter Island from 2010 and explore this excellently made film.
It's a mental hospital.
For the criminally insane.
Before we jump into the movie, there's two very important elements, both literally and metaphorically, to understand about this movie. Fire and water. They are the biggest symbolic elements we see throughout the entire movie. Fire represents Laeddis's delusions and his fantasy world. Wherever you see fire, a lot of the times in this movie, that represents that we're not seeing reality. We're seeing through his delusions.
Rachel Solando. The real one.
And that also ties into his psyche and the fact that in his delusional world he created, Andrew Laeddis, not him, killed his wife by burning the apartment down. And then you have water, which is the exact opposite. And it represents reality. And it represents his guilt. Every time you see water in this film, there's some type of event happening that is causing Teddy / Andrew. We're going to stick with Teddy until we get to the reveal. But anytime water is in a scene, the storm, that's another huge thing that we'll get to. Some people say the storm isn't real. It's 100% real.
Ain't gonna be no ferry in this shit. That is if we all don't wash away first.
But there is so much water symbolism. And obviously that ties to his psyche because his wife drowned his 3 children.
Andrew, your children! Simon, Henry.
We never had any children.
Your wife drowned them at the cabin by the lake.
So anything to do with water makes him sick to his stomach because it's his subconscious mind avoiding that. It's his subconscious mind avoiding the guilt that he killed his wife because she killed their children. And again, he blames it all on him.
Pull yourself together, Teddy. Pull yourself together.
Boston Harbor Islands, 1954. So we're set in the 50s. And you see the water symbolism from the opening of this movie. You see Teddy wake up on the boat and he's surrounded by water, surrounded by his guilt, surrounded by, the reality of the situation is that this is all a game.
You okay, boss?
Yeah, fine. I just can't stomach the water.
And it goes even deeper than that because he's actually physically throwing up and getting sick, which he blames it on seasickness later on.
Today I'm a little more prone to seasickness.
Ah, dehydration.
But we also know that he's going through withdrawals from not being on his medication.
You're not on anything, as a matter of fact.
And what the fuck is this? Huh? What the fuck is this?
Withdrawal.
But first of all, the cast here is excellent. Leonardo DiCaprio knocks it out of the park in this movie. He's phenomenal, as usual. Mark Ruffalo does a really good job. I don't think he does a great job, but he does a really good job. He might be one of the weakest performances in this movie, honestly, and there's not many of them. You have Ted Levine, Buffalo Bill. He's got a few great scenes and lines in this movie.
You're as violent as they come.
You don't know me.
Oh, but I do.
You don't
Oh,
know me.
I know you. We've known each other for centuries.
And then you have Max von Sydow.
Is legal immigration a crime, Marshal?
Who has done so many things, but we just watched The Exorcist the other night for Halloween week. So most well known for that. He's literally the exorcist.
You have outstanding defense mechanisms.
But the best performance in this film for me is Ben Kingsley.
Marshal Daniels?
Doctor.
Marshal Hall.
Every line that he delivers, every cadence, his mannerisms. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is Ben Kingsley. He's like that in a lot of movies. But he just nails the role in this film. I love hearing his voice. I just love everything about him and his character.
I wish I could let you just live in your fantasy world. I really do.
And you have to give a huge special shout out, that's hard to say, to Jack Earl Haley for playing George Noyce.
Laeddis?
That's pretty damn funny.
George Noyce. Who did this to you, George?
You did.
He's another actor. I know he gets a lot of shit for some reason for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I mean, that film is terrible in every way imaginable. Sorry, Cal, if you see this. But he did the best he could with the material there, and everything going against him because everyone, for the most part, thinks that the only person to play Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund. But he's an excellent actor. And his scene with Teddy, again, that's going to happen a ton throughout this. Are you serious? His scene with Teddy when he's in his cell.
This is a game. All of this is for you.
You're not investigating anything. You're a fucking rat in a maze.
And he's basically telling him exactly what he has to do and the reality of the situation without directly telling him.
She's dead. Let her go. You gotta do it. There's no other way. Let her go.
And that's another thing with this movie. I know some people don't like this film because they think the twist is so easy to guess. That's kind of the point, though. It's not supposed to be a huge, major reveal at the end of this film that he's the 67th patient and that he's crazy. There are so many clues and subtle hints and just flat out major hints and foreshadowing and conversations literally about him.
Seriously, Doctor, how is it possible that the truth never gets through to her? I mean, she's in a mental institution, right?
Rachel still believes the children are alive. She also believes this place is her home in the Berkshires. She's never once in 2 years acknowledged that she's in an institution she believes we're all deliverymen, milkmen, postal workers. To sustain the delusion that her children never died, she's created an elaborate fictional structure, and she gives us all parts to play in that fiction. Sanity is not a choice, Marshall. You can't just choose to get over it.
Which, yes, maybe you won't catch a lot of them the first watch, but there's enough there for you to know pretty much what's happening halfway through the movie. So Teddy ends up meeting Chuck on the boat, which doesn't really make sense except for the fact that this is all a role-play game, just like the theory I'm supporting here in this video.
This is a game.
Why would he wake up on a boat and meet his partner there? I mean, that's weird. But you get a nice little hint at that right here later in the movie.
He left on the ferry this morning. His vacation was already planned. He'd been putting it off too long.
So technically, Dr. Sheehan did leave on the ferry that morning.
Dr. Sheehan came in on the ferry this morning.
Not exactly.
He left with Teddy and went right back around and came back to Shutter Island to start this whole game. They learn about each other quickly, and then he looks for his cigarettes.
Oh my goddamn cigarettes.
Oh, yeah. Have one of mine. Thanks. Backup generators failed. Whole place has gone crazy.
And that's something we see throughout this movie. He never smokes his own cigarettes. He's always given one by Chuck or by Dr. Cawley.
Cigarette? Oh. No thanks, I quit.
And any other character who has a cigarette. And I guess they do that to try to keep him as safe as possible, not having a lighter. And here's my theory on that, because I'm going to contradict myself in a second. They want to keep him as safe as possible, right?
What the fuck is going on here?
I'm sorry, there wasn't any other way. Someone had to stick with you, keep you safe.
But for this movie, you have to accept the universe the movie's in. That, okay, this role play is happening, and just roll with it. No matter what theory you go with. Because the whole fact that they let this dangerous, highly trained, mental patient.
Patient is highly intelligent, highly delusional, decorated Army veteran. Present for the liberation of Dachau. Former U.S. Marshal, known proclivity for violence, shows no remorse for his crime because he denies the crime ever took place. Highly developed and fantastical narratives which preclude facing the truth of his acts.
I've had enough of this bullshit. Where's my partner, huh?
Suffering from extreme delusions, run amok all over the island, filled with other patients, orderlies, nurses, that he can easily hurt, and he does hurt a few of them. Isn't the whole point of all this to stop him from being violent and to come back to reality? So we see multiple times in this film just how dangerous Andrew Laeddis really is. This whole role play was necessary as a last resort because he is extremely violent.
You're the most dangerous patient we have. You've injured orderlies, guards, other patients. 2 weeks ago, you attacked George Noyce.
But the fact that they allow him to run around the way that they do and scale a cliff later on, they let him do this shit right before he meets the fake Rachel in the cave and has his whole hallucination, which we will get to. And then they allow him to do this and climb right back up. Just that alone is absolutely insane. Could you imagine pitching that whole idea to the board back then and saying, we got this idea. We're going to let this dangerous patient run all over the island. You could tell from my face I'm laughing at how ridiculous this is before this take. Let's start him on a boat first, and then have him come back onto the island, investigate his whole fantasy out in real time, and we'll hide some patients, we'll make up a missing one, and let's just hope this works. And he's able to scale cliffs, like I said, and move around everywhere, and there's no guards seeing that and trying to stop him from almost killing himself. Now, here's something I'm not sure what it means, but it's got to mean something because it's brought up twice in this movie. First, here at the beginning on the boat, when Teddy mistakes Portland for Seattle, for where Chuck's from.
Seattle. I came from the office in Seattle.
This is repeated again later before he, scales down that cliff like the rock climber he is, while in full withdrawals from medication, by the way.
What do you think the weather's like in Portland, Chuck?
I'm from Seattle.
So there's some type of emphasis on Seattle, not Portland. I don't really know what that means, and I really tried looking out and everything for every little hint. So if anyone has a theory on that, let me know. Maybe it's just a weird thing, in Andrew's subconscious, and it's projecting onto his, version of his partner, onto Chuck. I don't know. Let me know in the comments.
Deputy Warden McPherson, gentlemen, welcome to Shutter Island. I'll be the one taking you up to Ashecliffe.
So they arrive on Shutter Island, and this is the first time you hear the storm mentioned.
I'd appreciate it if you'd hurry up about it. Storm's coming.
Keep that in mind. Some theories try to say that, I don't even know what it's trying to say, that they're gaslighting him so much, and with the drugs and stuff, that he's totally hallucinating a storm, that almost turns into a hurricane, and everyone is playing along with it. I mean, none of that tracks and makes any sense in any way possible. There is a real storm. We actually see the doctor, Cawley, and Nehring, Seido's character, and all of the doctors having a private conversation about the place flooding. And you can tell just the way they're talking. They're being genuine.
If the facility floods, they'll drown. You know that.
That would take a lot of flooding.
We're on an island in the middle of the ocean during a hurricane. A lot of flooding seems like a distinct possibility. Where are they going to go? They can't just hop a ferry, scoot over to the mainland and wreak havoc.
You're quite right. They're far more likely to wreak havoc right here on us.
Because let me say this. First debunk, and this is just going off my own thoughts and logic. If this really was a conspiracy, and they were trying to drive him crazy, and he really is Teddy Daniels, everyone at this institution, including all of the very dangerous, severely mentally fucked up individuals that reside there, all of them should quit what they're doing, move to Hollywood, and become actors. They are some of the greatest actors I've ever seen in my life. The patients, the orderlies, the nurses, the doctors, the guards, everybody. If this was a real conspiracy. And that's another big thing I'll be pointing out throughout this. Mannerisms, the reactions, just the way that everybody carries themselves throughout this movie, indicating they know what's going on. Just like when they first get to the island here.
Boys seem a little on edge, Mr. McPherson.
Right now, Marshal, we all are.
Why are they all on guard? Because they know they got a dangerous fucking patient there that they're about to do this whole experimental thing with no idea what the outcome's gonna be. That's why they're all trigger happy. The cinematography in this movie's gorgeous throughout all of it, but especially in the dream sequences and the flashback to World War II and the death camps. The score is beautiful in this movie, and it's notable because there was no score for this film. It's completely comprised of classical music and I think old film scores from way back in the day, which for me adds to the film that whole pulp noir feel. Another thing you'll notice too, which I never really picked up on until I heard a theory about it. Their clothes, they look too big and oversized. They look like they just were grabbed off a rack somewhere for this whole, reenactment and this whole fantasy that they're playing out for Teddy. You would think their clothes would fit if this was all real and it was an actual conspiracy. There's a line that Teddy says to Chuck before they get off the boat. Almost forgot about this, which I'm not sure what to make of it, but I'm sure it was deliberate and I'm sure it's important. When he's talking to Chuck about how his wife died in the fire, he says,
4 people died. It was a smoke that got her, not the fire, so that's important.
Now, why is that important? That the smoke killed her, not the fire. Considering what we know fire represents in this movie, his delusion, non-reality, it's something he avoids. So I take it it's important to him because fire is threatening to him. So it sort of, soothes his subconscious, telling himself that the smoke killed her, not the fire. Anyone else have theories on that? That's one I almost forgot about, but I still don't know what to fully make of it, but I'm going to go with that shit for now. That's another phenomenal actor we have in here, John Carroll Lynch, McPherson. He's like second in command, I guess, to Dr. Cowley or Cawley. It's Cawley, it's not Cowley. What the fuck are you talking about? Then they end up arriving at the front gate.
Executive Order 319 of the Federal Code of Penitentiary states that when inside a penitentiary, the officers of that institution have final authority. Gentlemen, you will not get through this gate with your firearms.
This scene right here should have been enough for everybody. It's so obvious that something's up with Chuck. as he goes to grab for his gun, and he can't even get the gun out of the holster. He ends up giving the whole holster to McPherson. That alone right there tells you something's wrong with him, and he's not a marshal. He has no law enforcement experience, which of course we find out later he's a doctor there. But that's what I mean about the reveal and everything. It's not supposed to be that like, oh my God, I never saw that coming. That's a huge clue right there that everything seems off. And also about McPherson, and this goes back to what I was saying, about just reading the characters and the way they're acting. McPherson really genuinely seems to care about the work being done there. He praises Dr. Cawley.
What do you say we go find Dr. Cawley? We take only the most dangerous damaged patients, ones no other hospital can manage. And it's all due to Dr. Cawley.
McPherson's a good man. He believes in the work we do here.
He's created something really unique here.
Just like Cawley has many moments in this film where he shows that he actually cares for his patients.
If they're manacled to the floor, they'll die. There's 24 human beings. And you can live with that.
Like I said, if it's an act from everyone, move to Hollywood immediately. We need a change there. Get the mental patients from Shutter Island to Hollywood stat and start churning movies out. And that's where they explain Ward A has all the male patients, which I think it's cute. How every time Teddy refers to them as prisoners, Dr. Cawley corrects him as his patient, which is another thing that leads credence to everything I'm saying, that he really cares for his patients.
And which school are you, Doctor?
Me? I have this radical idea that if you treat a patient with respect, listen to him, try and understand, you just might reach him.
Then you have Ward B with the female patients and Ward C for the most dangerous ones they have. And then you get that creepy shot of the woman, and there's other patients too, in some type of restraints, and they're gardening, which are dangerous weapons. So I've always assumed they've been lobotomized. That's the only reason I would guess they allow them to garden, almost not unsupervised, but with barely restraints, and again, with weapons. But it is a creepy image all the same. And I take from her shushing, you could take three things actually. One, that she's trying to warn him of a conspiracy going on. Two, that she knows about this whole ruse, and she's just, fucking with him, or who knows. And that leads to point three, that she's probably been fucking lobotomized. So who knows what she's thinking and doing. So I don't read too deeply into that whole scene.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
Then they meet Dr. Cawley, and some people that support that theory that they're driving him nuts would say, why does he have all the images on the wall of what they used to do to patients, like the barbaric ways they treated them?
Those paintings are quite accurate. We drove screws into their brains. We submerged them in icy water until they lost consciousness or even drowned.
For me, it's simple. One, it's his whole life's work. So yeah, there were dark times, but more importantly, as a reminder of how far he's come.
And now?
We treat them, try to heal, try to cure.
How far the work that they've done there has come. That they no longer treat their patients like that, and that they're trying to do the best that they can for them. That very easily explains that away from me. And this is another scene where you pay close attention. The doctor says,
and if that fails, at least we provide them with a measure of comfort in their lives, calm.
And Teddy says,
these are all violent offenders, right? They've hurt people. Murdered them in some cases.
In almost all cases, yes.
And personally, Doctor, I'd have to say screw their sense of calm.
Just look at the way Chuck's eyes move and the look on his face. It's because he recognizes the irony here. Teddy saying screw their sense of calm, yet he's a patient there. And that's the same courtesy they're trying to extend to him. They're trying to save him from being lobotomized. That's a great line. And then this is where they first plant the idea in Teddy's head. Almost said Andrew. This is the first time we hear what Rachel Solando, the missing patient, did. And of course, it's exactly what Teddy's wife did. And he explains the whole situation.
She drowned them in the lake behind her house. She took them out one by one, held their heads under till they died.
He explains how Rachel's husband died, which would represent Teddy/Andrew.
And what about the husband?
He died on the beaches at Normandy.
And then notice as soon as he says Normandy, he gets the flashback. And since everything they're telling him on a subconscious level, deep down somewhere in that mind, that's trying to keep the truth out, it gets to him. And notice immediately after all that, he gets a headache and asks for aspirin.
Sorry, doctor. You don't happen to have an aspirin, do you? Oh, thanks so much.
Which is another supposed route of administration that they may be drugging him through the aspirin. It's not really aspirin. We'll get to that later. Trust me, I'm saving the drugs and the fun parts for later. I also thought this was interesting, but it may just be an editing continuity error or something like that. After he takes the pills, the aspirin, because they are aspirin, he barely takes a sip of water. And you see this again in the movie later on. But right after he takes the sip, it's already back on the table and it looks empty, which we also see something similar later on as well. Possibly he has that aversion to water, doesn't even want to take too much of a sip of it, because subconsciously it reminds him of everything. It's almost as if his real identity of Andrew Laeddis feels the pain just from hearing his own story told obviously differently. And to be fair to the movie, what I said earlier about them letting him go willy-nilly on a cliff and almost drop to his death, they do try to also, because this whole movie, they're planting ideas in his mind that will lead him to his breakthrough. And you can say in a way they are gaslighting him, but not in the way that it's a conspiracy. In the way that they have to reveal certain bits of information, step by step, probably was very planned out in order for him to organically reach his breakthrough. If he reached, some, evidence too soon, or he discovered something too early, it could, bring all his trauma flooding back, and who knows what could happen. So I think they orchestrated all this perfectly. So to their credit, they do try to implant the idea in his head to stay away from the cliff.
How many pairs of shoes are the patients given?
2 pairs.
She left here barefoot? Come on, Doc, she couldn't get 10 yards in that terrain.
And the caves. And not just Chuck or Dr. Sheehan. We also have McPherson, who also tries to put the same "you can't get there, don't even bother trying" message into Teddy's mind. This is so fucking confusing.
No way she could get there. The base of those cliffs are covered in the poison ivy, live oak, sumac, 1,000 plants with thorns as big as my dick. You said yourself, Marshall, she's got no shoes.
Like the note Teddy finds in Rachel Solando's cell, the Law of 4 and Who is 67 written on it. First of all, I love Dr. Cawley's response.
Who is 67? Fuck if I know.
I have to say, that's quite close to my clinical conclusion.
But that's what I mean. They perfectly orchestrated the timing of him finding that. All of this, like George Noyce says.
You're not investigating anything. You're a fucking rat in a maze.
That's what it is. And we're told that by so many different characters in different ways throughout the movie. Teddy is told that by many different characters in different ways throughout the whole movie.
Rachel Solando was on a combination of drugs meant to keep her from becoming violent, but it was only intermittently effective.
Back to the way characters are acting. When they're looking for Rachel Solando in the daytime the next day. Well, obviously the next day. Another example of the way that everyone's acting, that they know this is a game and that this is a ruse and they're going along with it. They're not searching. One dude is literally throwing rocks in the water. Another one's just sitting there because they know there's no Rachel Solando. They know she does not exist. That's why they're not searching anywhere. And this is where McPherson plants the idea of not going to the caves. Also, don't want to be a dick to the movie or to John Carroll Lynch, but...
You said yourself, Marshall, she's got no shoes.
Teddy didn't say that.
Come on, Doc, she couldn't get 10 yards in that terrain.
Chuck said it. So now this is something I noticed and I've never heard anyone say. Maybe it's out there, maybe someone has, maybe it means nothing. But when Teddy starts interrogating and talking to all the nurses and the orderlies.
Define unusual.
Excuse me.
This is a mental institution, Marshal, for the criminally insane. Usual isn't a big part of our day.
There's a clock behind him. And if you look carefully on the clock, one hand is pointing to 4, like the law of 4. The other hand is just past the 7, right after 6 and 7, who is 67. And the one pointing to the 4 is pointing at Teddy. Was that deliberate? I think it has to be. That is one hell of a coincidence. Let me know if you've ever noticed that, because I never did until this rewatch and getting ready for this whole video. And then we also see the nurse eyeing Dr. Sheehan when his name is brought up. Here's another theory that I thought up that I've never heard before. Let me know what you think of this one. The nurse is asked what Dr. Sheehan was talking about and what happened, during their group therapy the night before. And what did Rachel say? Did she say anything? And the nurse replies by saying,
She was worried about the rain. And she hated the food here. Complained constantly, last night included.
Now, given what we know about Andrew Laeddis and water and what it represents, he avoids it at all costs. I wonder if the nurse was talking about him when she says those things. I could see him saying he was worried about the rain coming. And I could see him hating the food there because there was no DoorDash back in 54. I'm sure it sucked. So that was something I thought. And they all laugh around him like they know. They know that she's quietly, unbeknownst to him, making fun of him. What do you guys think of that? I never picked up on that either.
You have outstanding defense mechanisms.
That's when we find out Dr. Sheehan left on the ferry that morning with Teddy, which I'm sure they drugged him. They sedated him heavily, and that's what he's waking up from at the beginning of the film. And then they go to whoever's operating the phone to try to call Dr. Sheehan, which they know is right there. But they're trying to call him, and this is the second mention of the storm.
I'm sorry, sir, but it's all down, all the lines. The storm's hitting the mainland like a hammer.
If you get it working, come find me immediately. The marshals need to make an important call.
I love that shot when they enter the whatever room it is. Is it Collie's office? I don't know. But when we meet Dr. Nehring, Sidehouse character, and he's sitting in the chair, and the slow turn of the camera to reveal him there. That's great. But I love that tracking shot when they first enter the room. That looks really good. And then Chuck says,
Nice music. Who is that, Brahms?
It's Mahler.
Quartet for piano and strings in A minor.
So Teddy knows, or Andrew knows, this piece of music. And it's heavily implied when we see the flashback in a few minutes back to the wartime when whoever it was, general, whatever, tried shooting himself, failed, and we see Teddy looking down at him before he eventually dies. He tells the story to Chuck later. We see a record spinning, which I'm assuming is that piece of music, Quartet for Piano and Strings in A minor. So I always assumed that's the song that was playing on the record, and they know this, and that's why they have it playing. Because they know he'll recognize it. All of this is so, perfectly crafted, this whole ruse and role play, to slowly bring reality to light for Andrew. And if you think this shit isn't confusing as hell so far recording this, then you have no idea, man. But everything they do and every clue they leave and everything they say is slowly trying to bring the truth to light and to release him from his delusions. So there's not a doubt in my mind. They purposely had that music playing to trigger that memory. How would they know that that piece of music meant anything to him if he was a real marshal and just came on the island? How would they know any of that? The only way they would know that music meant anything to him is if they knew him, that he was there as a patient for 2 years. Maybe he said he liked the music. It comforted him. Maybe he's listened to it there in the past. Something. It makes no sense for them to know that music has any relevance to him or any meaning or emotional impact on him in any way. If this was a conspiracy and he really was Teddy Daniels. Doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense if this is exactly what it's supposed to be. It is a role-playing game, basically what it is, to bring him out of his delusion. That's the only way they would know that. And there's a few other things too. The things that he dreams about. How would they know any of that?
You should have saved all of us.
Why are you all wet, baby?
Unless this guy really talks in his sleep and they're monitoring him for the 2 days he has the run of the place, and he was just so inclined to give exposition galore to them via mumbling through sleep. I don't think so. Again, those are things they would only know if he was a patient there and know his entire background. So hopefully I'm starting to get the juices flowing and starting the process of revealing how ridiculous that entire theory is, that it's a conspiracy. Just like how they try to convince Andrew or Teddy how inconceivable and ridiculous his delusions are. So I'm doing you guys a favor so you don't get lobotomized. And I love just how smart Teddy/Andrew actually is. He is a very intelligent person. Just look how he picks up immediately. I mean, yeah, he was in the war, but still immediately picks up on Naring's German accent that he's trying to hide.
Your English is sehr gut, fast perfect. His English really is very good. You hit the consonants a tad hard, though.
I love that scene. And then we get the third mention of the storm.
Nice night.
He's obviously saying that sarcastically. You could look at it like the storm's not there for the people who believe that he's saying it's a nice night because it actually is a nice night. But again, the storm is happening. Like, how much more proof do you need? It could be, exacerbated in his mind and more than it actually is. Sure, because he's losing his mind. And also symbolically, the whole thing with the storm is to show his mind, him losing it and him reaching the point that his whole delusion shatters. It's the whole course of his mind throughout this movie. That's what the storm represents. But it absolutely exists in real life in the movie. There is a fucking storm and there is a hurricane. I won't hear anything else about it. That first dream sequence with his wife Dolores and they're standing in the apartment, the cinematography is gorgeous. But when Teddy, or I guess Andrew, is walking down the hallway of the apartment complex into the room, I love the way that looks. The green and the lighting. And then you got the fourth mention of the storm by somebody. At this point, do you need any more proof? And plus, it's a black orderly that says,
"Ain't gonna be no fairy in this shit."
So you calling him a liar? What are you, racist? So they're continuing their investigation. And this is another example of Dr. Cawley really caring about his work and his patients. We're straight up told again Andrew Laeddis' whole story, and they're basically telling Teddy right to his face his whole situation via Rachel Solando.
The greatest obstacle to her recovery was her refusal to face what she had done.
Is there a reason you keep referring to your patient in the past tense, Doctor?
And you see the reaction from Dr. Cawley. Sympathy, empathy, that's what you see on his face, because you know that he's looking at him. You know that he's talking about him. He even shows the emotion on his face and that this is weighing on him. All of this is the last resort. This is the last chance to save this man from getting lobotomized. And he doesn't want that for Andrew. So you see that on his face, and he even has to deflect from that and mention the storm again outside.
Look outside, Marshal. Why do you think?
And then you get the patient interviews, which is a great sequence. And you get the weird guy who thought some woman was going to laugh at his cock in the kitchen for some reason. And he disfigured her, like, severely.
Okay, Mr. Breen.
Why was that a big deal?
It was obvious. She wanted me to pull out my thing so that she could laugh at it.
This is what I mean, again, with being phenomenal actors. This is a mentally deranged person in a asylum for the criminally insane. Teddy is sketching on the pad over and over again. Obviously, it's driving this guy nuts, and he still stays in character, man. He still doesn't, like, break or say, like, you're Andrew Laeddis or anything like that, which you can, I guess, use that as an argument towards the conspiracy, that whole angle. But that's, like, the one leg you got to stand on against, like, a million other things mentioned and will be mentioned. But it is weird. But to counter that, and this is another thing that I noticed just on this watch, when Teddy grabs the guy and starts to get violent, which again, this is where we see the violence in this man.
Please stop! Do you know a patient named Andrew Laeddis? Do you? No!
You see Dr. Sheehan subtly call a guard over or an orderly to come take the crazy guy away because they care about the patients there. That's a very small, subtle thing. But as soon as Teddy jumps at him, he waves an orderly over to come take care of the patient and take him away. They don't want this guy to get hurt, which speaks to everything about them at this institution. They care about what they're doing. They care about their patients. There's so many things that point towards exactly the way this movie has always really been taken, for the most part, by most people. They're not evil people trying to turn this guy insane.
Very impressive defense mechanisms.
And now we get to Mrs. Kearns, the more normal patient here, or so it seems. And there's some interesting stuff that happens in this scene. First of all, you see the nurse with a syringe with some type of sedative, just in case, they learned from their lesson before this, I guess, with his outburst on the other guy. Just in case he freaks out here, they'll sedate him. But this is another thing that I've never heard, and I only noticed or picked up on and tried to formulate this little theory I have. Because when she sits down and Teddy addresses her as Miss Kearns, she corrects him.
Excuse me for saying this, Miss Kearns.
Mrs.
Seems like a small thing now, hang with me. Her whole demeanor, her reactions during the scene, the way that she always looks over and glances at Dr. Sheehan when his name is brought up, which is another early hint in this movie.
What's he like?
He's, okay, nice. Not hard on the eyes, as my mother would say. No, Dr. Sheehan's a good doctor, you would know.
And she does seem more normal than the others, even though she did butcher her husband with an axe because he was abusing her, cheating on her. So she says that's not the least understandable thing that you can do, right? Kind of like Andrew killing his wife in a moment of, of intense trauma. It's a crime of passion. There's kind of a parallel there. Now, Teddy's wife killed their kids. Mrs. Kearns killed her husband, which, first of all, why would you want to identify yourself as Mrs. Kearns after a marriage that ended in you murdering the guy because he was an absolute dickhead to you? So why the correction? I feel like that's deliberate, and I think maybe that they were friends. The real Andrew Laeddis and Mrs. Kearns were close friends, and that they really care for each other, and that's why this is breaking her heart so much. I'll take it a step further, but this is, I'll admit, it's out there. Who knows? Maybe as patients there, you know how in prison people get married, maybe there they found solace in each other and they married each other in there. And that's why, and maybe that's his wife, which also parallels a bunch of stuff with his real wife. Again, that's a little bit out there. But you got to think about it because it does make a bit of sense. And again, either greatest actors ever, and I'm going to keep saying that, or this woman is heartbroken, having to stare her at least friend in the face and say she's never heard of him.
Did you ever meet a patient named Andrew Laeddis?
No. Never heard of it.
And that's why she breaks down, gets up, and leaves. But there's more interesting stuff in this scene. More water symbolism. When she asks Dr. Sheehan to get up and get a glass of water for her, he gets up, and you think they don't notice that she grabs his notepad and writes "run," which we find out later.
She wrote it.
But if you look closely here, they do. And she even says, like she was trying to think of what she was supposed to say next.
Could I have a glass of water, please?
No problem.
So Dr. Sheen could get up and Teddy would think she's really writing him, you know, actual information, or like she's playing into the game too. And that's also what's breaking her heart, because she has to play into this and she cares for him. But you can see an orderly looking directly at her when she's writing in his notepad. The nurse turns and sees it too. And then right when she's passing it back, Dr. Sheehan's looking at it. So that was just another part of this role play to push it forward to get him closer to snapping out of it. But back to the water symbolism, and this also ties my theory with her being almost a parallel of his wife. When she gets the glass of water,
Thank you.
when she goes to sip it, there is no glass of water in her hand. It's a great little shot there that Scorsese did of having nothing there. And you might not even notice it the first time. But when she puts it down, there's no water in it. It's empty. And what does water represent? Andrew, almost at Teddy's, guilt. So the fact that he isn't seeing water at all in this scene relating to Mrs. Kearns, I think that's something else that's noteworthy. I think that's something else that cements that she means something to him and he means something to her. And they were at least friendly. And again, breaking her heart because of it. But there's no guilt for him around her. And I think that was deliberate. What do you guys think? What's your opinions on the Mrs. Kearns stuff? There are also two moments in this movie where bombs, atomic bombs, or in a specific case later on, hydrogen bombs, are brought up. And yeah, at first, the first time you're watching this, makes sense just for the era, in the time period this is set in. But I think both references are very, very deliberate to represent what's happening to Andrew's psyche and what will happen when the delusion is broken.
You know how a hydrogen bomb works? Boss! Other bombs explode, right? But not the hydrogen bomb. It implodes, creating an explosion to the thousandth, the millionth degree.
So that scene with the patient and the hydrogen bomb absolutely is referring to the mental state of Laeddis and what will become the mental state of him. So after the interrogations, Teddy ends up telling Chuck why he's really here and who Andrew Laeddis is.
Andrew Laeddis was the maintenance man in the apartment building where my wife and I live. Andrew Laeddis lit the match that caused the fire that killed my wife. He burned down a schoolhouse, killed 2 people. Said voices told him to do it. First he went to prison, then he got transferred here. Then what? Then nothing. He vanished like he never existed. No record whatsoever.
And again, evidence of a storm, it's right here on your screens.
And hurry up! This thing is turning into a goddamn hurricane!
Make sure the bins are locked up. Make sure everything's okay with me.
I'm gonna get the proof. I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna blow the lid off this place.
This is where we hear about George Noyce, who was a college kid, socialist, but a good kid, I guess, according to Teddy. And he ended up at Shutter Island. Now, again, I'll let him say it.
Till I found somebody who used to be a patient here. Guy's name is George Noyce. Ends up here in Ashecliffe, Ward C. They release him after 1 year.
If this was a conspiracy, and it's this corrupt island, and they're doing all these experiments, why in the world would they let this guy leave? And if you try to explain it in the way that that's just in Teddy's mind, that he was there and released after a year, but George Noyce says,
They're gonna take me to the lighthouse. They're gonna cut into my brain. And I'm only here because of you!
Now, I do think he means you put me back in Ward C, and that he was on this island the whole time. But it shows the gaps already in Teddy's delusions, that if this place was a crazy island experimenting on people and would never want that information out.
Conducting experiments on the mind. At least that's my guess.
And you think that's going on here?
Why would they ever let somebody go?
It's pretty clear from what he tells me. They're experimenting on people here.
And Dr. Sheehan practiced this shit in front of a mirror for like a week ahead of time to really sell this scene.
What if they wanted you here?
Bullshit.
You were asking questions.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. We came in for Rachel Solando. Where's one shred of evidence she even existed? Well, you were looking into them, they were looking into you. All they had to do was fake an escape to get you here, and now they have you. Now they have us both. Here, now.
Now, not only is it a storm, it's a hurricane. And just more proof upon proof that this is actually happening. That there is a storm, it's turning into a hurricane, and this is where we see all the doctors and Dr. Cawley and Naring and stuff all being genuine, talking about their very, very valid concerns of what could happen if, the generator fails and the power goes out and a bunch of nutcases start roaming the place. Oh, also, the cinematography in that whole deck house story that Teddy is telling to Chuck when they're in like the mausoleum, when they were searching the cemetery, because they would think that's the best place to hide a body, especially Rachel's in this case. All of that is gorgeous. And then they're informed that Rachel's been found.
Why are they in my house?
Police officers, Rachel. They have a few questions.
We found her down by the lighthouse, skipping stones.
And she was skipping rocks down by the water. I'm sure that was deliberate. And then we hear
Are you all wet, baby?
during one of his dream/hallucination delusions, whatever they are. And we hear this again later from Cawley, and we find out that that's what he said to his wife, though not exact. It was not the same wording.
Baby? Why are you all wet?
Before he found out that she just drowned his kids. And again, how would they know that? How would they know that he said that then? How would they know about his daughter, Rachel, saying in his dream,
You should have saved all of us.
How would any of them know that? Again, unless he just spewed his whole life story in the middle of an intense nap, then there's no way I'm buying it. I also love in that doctor scene when they're discussing the hurricane and everything. And then Teddy and Chuck come in and mentions the law of 4 and who's the 67th patient, and he very smartly deduces.
Well, it seems to me Rachel Solando is suggesting that you have a 67th patient, Doctor.
But I'm afraid we don't.
And one of the people at the table says,
The law of 4, I love that.
Like they planned this and made it up. It's all part of the ruse. And during the hallucination with his wife, Teddy is told by Rachel, Dolores even tells Teddy in one of his delusions.
You need to find him and you kill him dead.
Because his wife represents, his guilt and doesn't want the truth to come to light. So he has to kill Andrew Laeddis so he can live in his Teddy delusion. So then the place floods a bit, and there's fucking wreckage everywhere. Again, really happening, and people are cleaning shit up everywhere. Patients are running all over the place, loose. You're telling me they let all these patients out? I don't think that was part of the plan. I really don't. They might have waited for a hurricane or for a major storm, knowing what water, represents and means to Andrew's psyche. I could see them planning that and planning for the weather, but I don't think they planned for it to be that bad and things get flooded and then purposely release all these dangerous patients all over the institution. Again, that's the thing you just got to accept with the whole premise of this movie. But also notice the second time he's given aspirin by Dr. Cawley when he's having that severe migraine, and then he ends up passing out. Now, with knowing what we know about Dr. Cawley really caring for his patients and doing all of this insane shit just for this one guy, this one patient, you could safely assume that he's really giving him aspirin. He doesn't want to give him his medication that he's withdrawing from, which is what's happening. He is not drugged or being drugged. He is withdrawing from chlorpromazine, which is Thorazine, which was one of the first antipsychotics that came out back in the day, and it suppresses dopamine. It helped with psychotic patients.
Some say the patients become reasonable, docile.
Every single symptom that we see in this movie, his shaking hands and the tremors, his night sweats and his nightmares, his delusional hallucinations, it's all textbook Thorazine withdrawal.
Who the fuck are you? Who are you?
Now to the cigarettes. They're not drugging him through the cigarettes. First of all, there's no drug back then that would be able to even get workable levels into your system via smoking. And especially none that would cause those type of delusions. LSD or something like that I've heard in theories. No. You're not getting delusions like that being dosed with a hallucinogen or something like that. Delusions don't have to mirror reality in any way, which is a hint at Rachel Solando in the cave. And the only other medications or drugs they could have really used back then was the truth serum. What's it called? Scopolamine or something like that, which is injected and always was usually injected 99% of the time. So it doesn't work through smoking. Same with Thorazine, which is the medication he was on. It goes against the whole point. And then barbiturates, that would just knock him on his ass, basically. And basically any other medication and drug back then, stuff that they could slip him, would not cause any of the symptoms we see in the movie. It's all textbook withdrawal from chlorpromazine. So with everything amok at this place and on the island, Chuck and Teddy end up going to Ward C. And they get instructions from one of the guards. And then this happens.
Get your asses moving then. Go on.
Which is weird, yeah, at first, when you don't know what's happening. But again, this is more evidence that he knows what's going on. He knows this is all bullshit and it's a game. So you got a guard running away laughing at how ridiculous this is. That's all that is. And then we meet George Noyce. Teddy stumbles upon him in his cell after we hear him say Laeddis. So he knows Teddy/Andrew is roaming around because he's in on the whole ruse too. And again, Jack Earl Haley's performance in this whole scene is excellent.
You're fucking talking. I'm back in here because of you.
How did they get you out of Dedham, huh? However this happened, I'm gonna find a way to fix this. You understand me?
I'll never get out now. I got out once, not twice, never twice.
Just tell me how they got you here.
She's dead. Let her go. Let her go. You gotta do it. There's no other way.
But also notice the matches, which you see a few times in this movie, but very prevalent here. Every time he strikes the match and the stuff that's being said by George to him is part of his delusion and is feeding into his delusion. Anytime the truth almost gets to Teddy's mind from the stuff George is saying, the match starts to go out. and he has to light another one, lighting the delusion back up. And as the fire fades, then it's reality almost breaking through.
Then they've already won.
Fuck. She's fucking with your head.
And I told you it was from happiness.
She's gonna kill you. She's gonna kill you.
You want to uncover the truth? You gotta let it go.
I can't.
You have to let it go! I can't! I can't!
Then you'll never leave this island.
It's so well done. Now the whole thing with the 67th patient and the numbers discrepancy. We have 65 patients. 66 is supposed to be Rachel Solando. We find out she does not exist. 67 would be Andrew Laeddis / Teddy. Without Rachel Solando, though, existing, we're back to 66. How are there 67? And it's easy. It's George Noyce. George Noyce is the 66th. Why would they ever tell him of his existence during this whole role play if they know that they were close? And he almost killed the guy 2 weeks ago. It's the whole reason they're doing this role play, is the last resort to stop him from having to get lobotomized because of how violent he's gotten. And we see right after that scene him beat the shit out of one of the patients.
What are you doing?
So as he gets more closer to unraveling and the truth coming out, we see the violence in Andrew Laeddis come out more and more. But I always thought it was a very simple explanation. George Noyce is the 66th patient. Just picture Rachel Solando, take her out, put George Noyce in. They're obviously just keeping that information away from Teddy during his investigation. That's why it's a shock to him when he shows up there and he finds out that it is George Noyce. If he looked at the roster of patients earlier that they gave him and they had George Noyce's name on it, that would fuck with the whole plan. So the whole numbers discrepancy, it's not a discrepancy. George Noyce is the 66th. Andrew Laeddis is the 67th. That's it. And another instance that you see a guard caring for a patient.
What's the matter with you guys? Catch them, not kill them.
He jumped us.
He's actually concerned for what Teddy just did to this patient. But obviously, George Noyce makes him not trust Chuck by saying, you never worked with him before, right? You never worked with him before. So now he doesn't trust his partner.
No, I never found him.
I got the next best thing, his intake form. It's the only thing in his files. There's no session notes, no incident reports, no photographs, just this. It was weird.
And this is where they allow him to scale a cliff, go down, find a cave, after he is hallucinating and sees Chuck's dead body at the bottom of the cliff and the water washes over it. So he's really starting to lose it at this point. And the withdrawals from his medication, it's really starting to intensify. And you see that when he gets to the cave with Rachel Solando. His hands are trembling. But yet, the fire doesn't help warm him up, because I'm sure he's trembling also because of, the storm, and he was freezing out, and he just climbed a fucking cliff. So, I mean, again, a guy going through withdrawals from an antipsychotic medication. There's no guards anywhere to see him doing this, trying to stop him from doing this or anything. So, I mean, that even could lead me to think that he never even scaled the cliff and went down into that cave. Maybe he was just passed out on the lawn up there, for all we know. But we meet Rachel Solando, the real one.
Rachel Solando. The real one.
Before I was a patient at Ashecliffe, I worked here.
You were a nurse?
I was a doctor, Marshall.
And what's present separating the two of them? Fire, which we know is delusion. She is a delusion created by his mind to reinforce all of his conspiracy theories. Every conspiracy theory and thing that he thinks is happening at this island and this asylum is echoed back to him by Rachel Solando. It's just a manifestation of his delusions.
Crazy people, they're the perfect subjects. They talk, nobody listens.
Any past traumas in your life? Because they're going to point to some event in your past and say it's the reason you lost your sanity. So that when they commit you here, your friends and colleagues will say, of course he cracked. Who wouldn't after what he'd been through?
They can say that about anyone.
Point is, they're gonna say it about you. Any funny dreams lately? Trouble sleeping? You haven't taken any pills, have you? I mean, even aspirin.
The aspirin.
Palsy comes first. First the fingertips, then eventually the whole hand. Seen any walking nightmares lately, Marshall?
Tell me what goes on in that lighthouse.
I've heard people argue that she's real because we don't see her ever again, the actress or the character. Like we do see the real fake Rachel Solando, I guess, as the nurse at the end. So, why did he just make up an imaginary person? That's how delusions work. They don't make sense.
Psychotropic drugs.
I asked about the surgeries, too. And you ate the food in the cafeteria and drank the coffee they gave you. You tell me at least that you've been smoking your own cigarettes. It takes 36 to 48 hours for neuroleptic narcotics to reach workable levels in the bloodstream.
They don't base it, they're not based off reality. They're not based off real people. Delusional people absolutely think up completely made up people all the time. So just the fact that we don't see her again is all the more proof that she doesn't exist. And notice how at the beginning, when he first finds her, she's standing up. As she starts getting deeper into the conversation and more into the conspiracy, is when she sits down and the fire is fully covering her and flickering in front of her face. All the more alluding to this is all delusions that his brain is feeding back to itself. So that, in Cawley's words later...
And you've uncovered a conspiracy so that anything we tell you about who you are, what you've done, you can dismiss as lies.
But I love the line when he says...
Who knows about this?
Everyone.
He says, how's that possible? I mean, the orderlies, the nurses, and she stops him short. Everyone. Again, reinforcing in his mind, everyone on this island knows, and they're all part of this conspiracy that doesn't exist. And then he leaves the cave, and before you argue that he wakes up the next morning in the cave and Rachel is still there, and the fire seems to be dwindling or out, remember how I said, the more fire in front of her, the more delusional and conspiracy theory it gets? The less fire, the more truth revealed. And this is what she says.
The only way off the island is a ferry, and they control it. You'll never leave here. You have no friends.
That's the harsh truth that he knows deep down. Hence the lack of the fire in that scene. Rachel Solando in the cave does not exist. Period. Then you have the lead up to the climax and reveal in the lighthouse. And Dr. Cawley, again, in his gaslighting way, but it's a nice gaslighting, if you will. He's doing it for a good reason. He says, you don't have a partner, Marshall. You came here alone. And makes him repeat that back. Again, just another stepping stone and another brick being laid to get him to the lighthouse. So it finally is all revealed and he can hopefully break out of the delusion. He has his running with Naring, which rightfully so, that guy had a fucking sedative. You see the size of that syringe? It looks like it can knock an elephant out. And damn right, I'd have that around this guy too. And he ends up getting injected with it by Teddy. And he makes his way to the lighthouse, and it's revealed that the guard he knocked out, that was guarding the lighthouse, the rifle's empty. Why? Because no one's carrying loaded guns around that this guy can actually knock them out and take their loaded guns. If it was a conspiracy, don't you think they would have, they would have guns loaded just in case something went wrong with their conspiracy to turn this guy crazy? And then everything from Ben Kingsley in this entire end of the film is phenomenal. I love everything that comes out of his mouth for the rest of the movie. But we find out that he is the 67th patient at Ashecliffe.
Your name is Andrew Laeddis. The 67th patient at Ashecliffe is you, Andrew.
Bullshit.
You were committed here by court order 24 months ago. Your crime is terrible. One you can't forgive yourself for, so you invented another self.
Let's get down to the facts.
You've created a story in which you're not a murderer, you're a hero, still a U.S. Marshal, only here at Ashecliffe because of a case, and you've uncovered a conspiracy so that anything we tell you about who you are, what you've done, You can dismiss his lies, Andrew.
My name is Edward Daniels.
I've been hearing this fantasy for 2 years now. I know every detail.
You have outstanding defense mechanisms.
And DiCaprio's performance, too, in this whole ending sequence is just above and beyond. He does such a great job with the stammering, the stuttering when he's trying to get words out, his shaking, the way he yells, and the way he's so convinced, and then he starts looking like he's accepting it.
Your delusions are more severe than I thought. You're not on neuroleptics. You're not on anything, as a matter of fact.
And what the fuck is this? Huh? What the fuck is this?
Withdrawal.
Withdrawal? From what? I haven't had a goddamn drink since I've been on this island.
Chlorpromazine.
And then they bring in Sheehan.
But what about my partner? You gonna tell the U.S. Marshal's office that he's a defense mechanism?
Hello, boss.
And just the way that he goes after him, man, because in his mind, he risked everything for his partner. He came in here to rescue his partner.
I climbed down a cliff to get you. I trusted you. I risked everything to come in here after you. Everything!
I know, boss. We're running out of time here, Andrew. I swore before the Board of Overseers that I could construct the most radical, cutting-edge role play ever attempted in psychiatry, and it would bring you back. I thought that if we let you play this out, we could get you to see how untrue, how impossible it is. You've had the run of the place for 2 days. Tell me, where are the Nazi experiments? The satanic ORs?
And then we have the 4 anagrams, which again...
Notice anything these 4 names have in common? It's your rule of 4. Andrew, what do you see? Focus, Andrew, what do you see? The names have the same letters. Edward Daniels has exactly the same 13 letters as Andrew Laeddis. The same as Rachel Solando and Dolores Chanel. The names are anagrams for each other.
This is another thing that disproves the whole conspiracy thing. What are the chances that you got 4 names that are anagrams of each other, that all have the same 13 letters, all involved in an actual conspiracy? I'd say it's astronomical to 0. It's somewhere around there in that range. It is much more plausible that a mind came up with the anagrams, and that's exactly what happened. And then he ends up snapping out of it, even though he did snap out of it once. And then he almost killed George Noyce.
2 weeks ago, you attacked George Noyce.
No, I'm fucking on to you, Doctor. You had Noyce beaten.
Of course I didn't.
Give me one reason why I would even touch him.
Because he called you Laeddis, and you do anything not to be him.
He meant that it was my fault.
You almost killed him.
So this is their last attempt. And unfortunately, it fails. But it doesn't fail for the reasons that they were hoping it wouldn't fail for, if that makes sense. It fails because he does come back, but he doesn't want to live as a monster. He doesn't want to live as a violent person, knowing he could relapse back into Teddy at any moment. Why would he want to live that way? And just to specify too, I hear this all the time. They don't kill his ass at the end of this movie. You guys know that, right? They lobotomize him. He's still around after the events of the movie. He's not dead. Just because he says to die as a good man, he's talking metaphorically, that he doesn't have the guilt to live with anymore. He's very much alive at the end. Maybe half alive or so, but he's alive at the end of this. Then you get that great score and main theme throughout this. I forgot to look where that came from, what old film that was from. Shutter Island, man. And I hope I was able to prove the whole conspiracy thing is bullshit. It's like I said, you can look at this movie in so many different ways, and I'm already just clocking on the raw recording. This is well over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So if you watched all of this, especially if you're new to the channel, just know, one, thank you so much. And I put a ton of work into this video, more than usual, just because of how deep and layered this film is and how much theories and interpretations there are. So I wanted to do it justice. So for those who made it to the end, congrats. And 2, you might need some fucking therapy now after listening to me.
I didn't believe a crazy guy.
for whatever amount of time this amounts to. But all right, guys, hope everyone has a good morning, afternoon, or night. I will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Your tactics, then they're not going to work on
You
me.
came here for the truth. Here it is.